Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
The morning sun shone brightly over Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, on October 26, 2025. This day marked the beginning of a very important meeting, the 47th Asean Summit. Leaders, government officials, and diplomats from many countries came together in Malaysia's capital. This summit was a big event for Southeast Asia, a region home to nearly 700 million people. The main ideas for this year's summit were inclusivity and sustainability. Malaysia, as the host country, aimed to guide ASEAN through a difficult time. It also planned to set a path for a future where countries work more closely and become stronger together. For the people of Southeast Asia, this meeting would show if ASEAN could truly bring peace, prosperity, and unity. The Kuala Lumpur Convention Center was the central place where all these important discussions happened. Leaders from around the world arrived. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, came to the summit. He was there to witness the signing of a peace agreement and to finalize new trade deals. These deals aimed to compete with China's growing economic power. China's Premier, Li Qiang, also arrived to strengthen his country's relationships with its southern neighbors. Other important leaders, like the Prime Ministers of Japan and Australia, and the Presidents of South Korea, also joined. Representatives from Russia, Brazil, South Africa, and the European Union were also present, each with their own hopes for the outcomes. Among all these high-level discussions, a special event truly captured the spirit of ASEAN's journey. Timor-Leste was formally accepted as ASEAN's 11th member. This small country had worked for many years to join the group. Its national flag was proudly raised alongside the flags of the 10 other nations. This was a moment of great importance and joy. It marked ASEAN's first expansion in 26 years. This event showed a rare moment of strong unity and agreement among the ASEAN countries, even in a world that often feels divided. It was a clear sign of ASEAN's continuing growth and its hope for a united future. 2. What is ASEAN? ASEAN began a long time ago. On August 8, 1967, 5 countries in Southeast Asia started it: Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. They signed an agreement called the Bangkok Declaration. The world was a difficult place then. There was war in Vietnam, and many new countries in the region wanted to be strong together. They wanted to make their own way and not be controlled by bigger outside powers. The leaders who started ASEAN hoped for peace, good economic cooperation for each other, and cultural growth. They also wanted to protect each country's right to rule itself. This helped stop any one country from becoming too powerful in the region. These countries decided on special rules for working together. These rules are called the ASEAN Way. The main ideas are showing respect for each other's power to govern their own country, not getting involved in another country's internal problems, making decisions together by talking until everyone agrees. This is called consensus, and always solving problems peacefully. These rules were important because the region had a history of outside countries trying to control it, and internal conflicts had also caused many problems. Over time, more countries joined ASEAN. Brunei joined in 1984. Vietnam joined in 1995. Laos and Myanmar joined in 1997, and Cambodia in 1999. This meant that 10 countries from Southeast Asia were now part of ASEAN. More recently, Timor-Leste also joined, making it 11 member countries. This expansion showed how many countries saw the value in joining the group. ASEAN has many important goals. It wants to maintain peace and safety in the region for everyone. It also aims to make countries work better together economically. This means helping people earn more money, reducing poverty, and creating more opportunities. ASEAN wants to create a big single market where goods, services, money, and skilled workers can move easily between countries without many barriers. For example, they started the ASEAN Free Trade Area to make trading cheaper and simpler. They also work on other important areas like human rights, protecting the environment for future generations, and building a stronger, people-centered community. In 2015, they formed the ASEAN Community, which focuses on political security, economic matters, and social and cultural issues. This step changed ASEAN from just a diplomatic group into a community working for a better, more connected future for Southeast Asia. 3. The Big Meeting in 2025. Malaysia hosted the ASEAN Summit in October 2025. The host nation had specific goals for this important gathering. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim wanted to guide the region through a time with many global challenges. Malaysia's chairmanship focused on 3 key areas: promoting peace and security, increasing trade and investment, and making sure everyone benefited from growth. The summit's main theme was inclusivity and sustainability. This showed Malaysia's hope to build a stronger and fairer future for Southeast Asia. A truly special event marked the opening of the summit. Timor-Leste officially became the 11th member of ASEAN. This was a historic moment, as it was ASEAN's first new member in 26 years. The ceremony was moving. Timor-Leste's flag was raised high, standing with the flags of the other 10 nations. For Timor-Leste, a country that became independent in 2002, this membership brought great pride and new chances. Their president, José Ramos Horta, called it the realization of a dream. Joining ASEAN will give Timor-Leste access to important trade agreements and help for its economy, which mainly depends on oil and gas. It was a clear sign of ASEAN's wish for more unity. However, the meetings behind closed doors quickly turned to harder topics. 3 major crises strongly influenced the discussions: The first was the continuing civil war in Myanmar. Since a military coup in 2021, Myanmar had faced widespread violence and instability. This conflict was a big problem for ASEAN, as it happened in one of its own member countries. ASEAN leaders found it hard to agree on how to help Myanmar. The second important issue was the disputes in the South China Sea. Several ASEAN nations have arguments with China over who owns parts of these waters. China's claims often conflict with those of countries like the Philippines and Vietnam. These disagreements caused much tension and made regional cooperation difficult. Finding a peaceful solution was a key goal for many leaders. Lastly, economic tensions with the United States were a key topic. U.S. President Donald Trump attended the summit. His government was introducing new tariffs and trade deals. These actions created concerns for many ASEAN countries that rely on exports. These three challenges made the 2025 summit a very complex and critical meeting for all the leaders involved. They showed how hard it was to keep peace and economic growth in the region. 4. The problem with Myanmar. Myanmar is a very big problem for ASEAN. Many people see it as ASEAN's biggest political failure. In February 2021, the military in Myanmar took control of the government. This is called a coup. The country had a government chosen by the people, but the military removed it. After the coup, a civil war started. There was a lot of fighting and violence. Thousands of people have been killed, and many more have been put in jail for political reasons. Also, millions of people had to leave their homes and move to other places inside the country. ASEAN tried to help solve the problem. In April 2021, ASEAN leaders made a plan called the 5-Point Consensus. This plan had 5 main goals. First, it asked for an end to all violence right away. Second, it called for talks between all groups in Myanmar. Third, ASEAN wanted to send a special person to help with these talks. Fourth, it wanted to give help to people who needed it. Fifth, the special envoy should be allowed to visit Myanmar and meet with everyone. However, even after 4 years, these goals have not been met. The violence continues, and talks have not truly started. Because of this, Myanmar's military leaders are not allowed to join the main ASEAN summits. They can only send someone who is not a political leader. One reason for this difficulty is how ASEAN works. The ASEAN Way has a rule called non-interference. This means that member countries usually do not get involved in the internal problems of other member countries. This rule was made to respect each country's independence. But in Myanmar, this rule makes it hard for ASEAN to stop the violence and help the people. Also, ASEAN makes decisions by consensus. This means everyone must agree. If one country does not agree, the plan cannot move forward. This gives Myanmar, or any country, the power to stop actions against itself. So, ASEAN finds it very hard to act strongly or quickly to fix the serious problem in Myanmar. The crisis shows how difficult it is for ASEAN to manage big problems when its own rules limit its power. 5. Big countries and big problems. The South China Sea was a big challenge for ASEAN. China claimed a large part of it using its 9-dash line on maps. This claim covers most of the sea. However, several ASEAN nations like the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei also claim parts of these waters. There were often problems between Chinese ships and those from other countries, especially the Philippines. The Philippines spoke strongly about China's actions. But Vietnam, another country with claims, was more careful in its public statements. ASEAN countries did not fully agree on how to deal with China. Some members, like Cambodia and Laos, have very close economic ties with China. They did not want to upset China. This division made it hard for ASEAN to present a united front. Talks about a code of conduct, a set of rules for the South China Sea, had continued for 2 decades without a final agreement. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, as the host, aimed for peace. He talked about using dialogue, solving problems peacefully, and following international law. A very important visitor at the summit was U.S. President Donald Trump. This was his first time traveling to Asia since he returned to the White House. His presence showed that the United States wanted to be a strong player in Southeast Asia again. This region is now seen as very important in the larger competition between the U.S. and China. President Trump played a key role in a major peace agreement. In July 2025, Thailand and Cambodia had a serious border conflict. This fighting caused many deaths and made about 300,000 people leave their homes. President Trump, working with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar, helped stop the violence. He had warned both nations that the U.S. would place higher tariffs, taxes, on their goods if they did not stop fighting. At the summit, they signed the Kuala Lumpur Peace Accords. Under this agreement, both countries promised to move their heavy military equipment away from the border. ASEAN teams would then supervise these areas. Thailand also agreed to release 18 Cambodian soldiers. President Trump called this a historic achievement. During the summit, President Trump also announced new trade agreements with several ASEAN countries. The U.S. finalized trade deals with Malaysia and Cambodia. It also set up basic trade agreements with Thailand and Vietnam. Important deals for critical minerals were signed with Thailand and Malaysia. The goal was to get these minerals from more countries, not just China. For these deals, the U.S. kept tariffs of 19 to 20% on goods from ASEAN. While still present, these tariffs were much lower than what had been threatened earlier. This was part of President Trump's plan to balance trade and secure important resources. These tariffs created a challenge for ASEAN countries that rely on exports, but also gave them a chance to gain investments. 6. Money, crime, and weather. ASEAN also looked at its economic future. The group adopted a new plan called the ASEAN Community Vision 2045. This long-term plan is for the next 20 years. It aims to make ASEAN strong, new, and focused on its people. It also wants the region to be a main place for growth in the Indo-Pacific. The plan added a fourth important area, called connectivity. This means better links between countries, like roads, internet, and people moving freely. ASEAN wants to close the gaps in development and make life better for everyone. But there are still big problems. Countries have different levels of wealth. Rules are not always the same, and there is not enough infrastructure. Also, corruption is a challenge for progress. Beyond money, ASEAN faced serious problems that cross borders. One big issue is cyber scam operations. Southeast Asia has become a main place for these crimes. Criminal groups run scam centers, especially in Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, and the Philippines. These scams make a lot of money, around $43.8 billion each year. They use online tricks, dating scams, and false investment ideas. These groups also trap people, forcing them to work against their will. This problem hurts ASEAN's name, helps criminals, and makes economies weaker. Leaders at the summit promised to work together more to stop these crimes and help the victims. Climate change is another big problem for Southeast Asia. It is one of the areas most affected by global warming. Countries like Myanmar, the Philippines, and Thailand often suffer from severe weather. Sea levels are going up, rain patterns are changing, and big storms, floods, and dry periods are more common. ASEAN has plans to help, like planting 10 million trees. It also has a group that works on climate policy. The goal is to protect the environment and be ready for climate impacts. However, it is hard to grow economies quickly and protect nature at the same time. The demand for energy will triple by 2040. Many countries still use a lot of coal and fossil fuels. Forests are still being cut down for things like palm oil. Smoke from farm burning often causes haze that crosses borders. ASEAN needs more money, skills, and political will to fight climate change effectively. 7. Is ASEAN still important? In the modern world, many people ask if ASEAN is still important. The group faces big challenges and has some clear failures. For example, ASEAN could not solve the Rohingya refugee crisis. More than 1 million Rohingya people fled Myanmar due to military violence. But ASEAN's response was very small. This shows how the non-interference rule, where countries do not get involved in other members' internal affairs, can limit ASEAN's power to act, even during a humanitarian crisis. Another big problem is the pressure on ASEAN countries to choose between two powerful nations, the United States and China. Both want strong ties with Southeast Asian nations. The U.S. offers security and economic partnerships, while China provides large investments and trade. This situation creates divisions within ASEAN. Some member states lean towards the U.S., while others have closer ties to China. This makes it harder for ASEAN to act as one group. especially when dealing with issues like the South China Sea disputes. Critics of ASEAN say it is not effective enough. They sometimes call it a talking shop, because leaders often meet and make statements, but real action is slow or does not happen. They argue that the consensus rule, where all members must agree, can stop progress. One country's disagreement can prevent important decisions. The ongoing civil war in Myanmar and the failure to help the Rohingya are often used as examples of ASEAN's limits. However, many people believe ASEAN is still very important for the region. Defenders say ASEAN has kept peace among its members for nearly 60 years. Without it, there might have been more conflicts in Southeast Asia. ASEAN also helps boost the region's economy through trade and investment. It provides a platform for dialogue and helps countries manage their differences. ASEAN gives smaller countries a collective voice in global affairs, making them stronger together. For these reasons, many see ASEAN as essential for peace and growth. 8. What happens next? The summit in Kuala Lumpur ended. Some important things happened. Timor-Leste officially became ASEAN's 11th member. This was a big moment for the group, showing it can still grow. The U.S. President, Donald Trump, also helped make a peace deal. This deal was between Thailand and Cambodia, stopping their border fight. President Trump also announced new trade agreements with several ASEAN countries. These deals aimed to help trade, but also showed new economic pressures. ASEAN also made a new plan for its future, called the ASEAN Community Vision 2045. This plan aims to make the region stronger and better in the next 2 decades. After Malaysia, the Philippines will lead ASEAN. This will start on January 1, 2026. The Philippines might change how ASEAN works on some big problems. They may speak more strongly about the South China Sea. They might also want ASEAN to act differently on the Myanmar crisis. The future of ASEAN is not clear. Many big questions remain. Can ASEAN stay united when the United States and China want countries to pick sides? Will ASEAN find better ways to solve problems inside its member countries, like human rights issues? Can ASEAN make its plans real so that its people see true changes in their lives? Also, how will ASEAN deal with new global problems like climate change and cybercrime? Will young people in the region believe ASEAN is still important for them? ASEAN is still a work in progress. It is an experiment that keeps going. The summit showed that ASEAN can do some good things, but it also showed its limits and the hard challenges it faces. Its success depends on whether it can bring real peace, money, and a better life for all the people in Southeast Asia. The journey is not finished, and the outcome is not yet known. What do you think is the biggest challenge ASEAN faces in the coming years?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.